Hello and welcome back. We're getting into Session 8 of The Science of Getting Rich, thinking in a certain way. When you think about the things you want in life, your dreams, where do you picture them? Do you imagine them out in the future somewhere, existing as some yet undefined point in time, a place that you're moving towards but haven't arrived at yet? This next session in The Science of Getting Rich turns that typical understanding of where dreams reside and what you need to do to reach them on its head, with amazing repercussions. As Wallace Wattles said, when it comes to getting rich, you're a scientist, not a dreamer. That distinction and the different thought processes it entails is what's going to make the difference between simply dreaming about a better, happier, more abundant future and actually achieving it. Let's join Bob to hear more about this certain way of thinking that turns dreams into results.
If we go right back to the premise that this entire program is built upon, Wallace Wattles said that you do not get rich by doing certain things, but you get rich by doing things in a certain way. Now, I want you to really play with this mentally for a few minutes. You will find two people. Let's take two salespeople. They're working in the same office. They're working for the same sales manager. They're working in the same marketplace. They're selling exactly the same product at exactly the same price. One sells 25 times as much as the other one. How could that possibly be? And if you go out with them and sort of shadow them and watch what they do, you'd come back and you'd say, well, they're doing exactly the same things. And they are. But you don't get rich by doing things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way. You see, one is operating with the law and the other is going against the law. Now, if you mentally return to the 6th session that we've already covered and review the story of the man who formed a mental image of his house, and you're going to get a fair idea of the initial step toward getting rich. You must form a clear and a definite mental picture of what you want. You cannot transmit an idea unless you have it yourself. Make believe that you're a radio station, and infinite intelligence is the radio. What is the radio going to receive from you? It's only going to receive what you transmit. When you turn on your radio, the only message you can get on the particular frequency you're on is the message that's being sent out on that frequency. Well, you think on frequencies, and you transmit, and you're transmitting to infinite intelligence. You're transmitting images, thoughts to the infinite intelligence, and the only thing that you're going to get back is the picture that you send out. Build the picture in your mind for a moment as yourself as the stick person that you found in this program. See your head as your mind and everything from the neck down as being the body. Now remember, we put an imaginary line, a horizontal line from ear to ear, and everything above the horizontal line was your conscious mind. I think you'll remember one time I suggested that there be a funnel of energy flowing right into the crown of your head, and it's circulating down to and through you. It has no form. Now we're going to build the form. We're going to build the picture of what we want. We're going to see it in detail, every detail of what you want, the color, the size, the shape. Absolutely everything that you want about this particular concept is formed in your consciousness. Now, the second you let that move into your subconscious, you let yourself get emotionally involved, understand that's transmitting it to formless intelligence. That's right. When you let yourself get emotionally involved in an idea, you let the idea sink into the subjective mind, it will permeate and penetrate and fill every cell of your being, but it also is transmitted to formless intelligence. This is a beautiful concept, and the more you study this, the clearer it's going to become. You must have it before you give it. In other words, you've got to build the concept in your consciousness, and then you turn it over to formless intelligence, to the universal subconscious mind. And many people fail to impress the thinking substance because they have themselves only a vague and misty concept of the things they want to become, to do, or to have. Get it clear. Understand that there is a creative power. It's an unadulterated creative power that's flowing into your consciousness. It has no form, and you can give it form. You can see exactly what you want. It doesn't matter whether you've got the resources. It doesn't matter whether you've got the money or the people to help you. You have the godlike ability to build the picture of exactly what you want in your consciousness. And then you let that picture sink through that imaginary line that separates the conscious from the universal side of your personality. And as it sinks into your subconscious mind, you let yourself feel yourself full of that idea. You literally fill your mind with that idea. Now, it's not enough that you should have a general desire for wealth to do good with. Everybody has that desire. It's not enough that you should have a wish to travel, to see things, to live more. Everybody has those desires also. If you're going to send a telegram message to a friend, you would not send the letters of the alphabet in their order and let them construct the message for themselves. Nor would you take the words at random from the dictionary. You would send a coherent sentence, one which meant something. When you try to impress your wishes upon the thinking substance, remember that it must be done by a coherent statement. You must know what you want and be definite. Begin the transmission by saying, I am so happy and grateful now that every fiber of my being is vibrating in harmony with God's laws. I see myself becoming healthier and stronger and more vibrant every moment of every day. Or if it's wealth you want, I am so happy and grateful, and fill yourself with gratitude. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. Or if it's more business you want, I am so happy and grateful now that business is coming to me in an abundant manner, everywhere, every day. Fill your mind with this picture, but you've got to see it in your conscious mind. See it with the eye of the one in your consciousness. You can never get rich or start the creative power into action by sending out unformed longings and vague desires. Go over your desires, just as the man that was described in the previous lesson went over his house. See just what you want and get a clear mental picture of it as you wish it to look when you receive it on the physical plane. Now understand this, that you don't have to rush. It's not going to materialize maybe when you want it to materialize, but it must materialize. You go back to the second session and review the laws. We talked about the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Energy is forever moving into form. What's moving into form in your life? The image that we're talking about right now, the good that you're filling your consciousness with. Do you remember when we talked about the law of gender? We pointed out that all seeds have a gestation or an incubation period. There's a period of time must elapse before this beautiful image materializes in your life. And understand this, it's in God's time, not your time. See, God never expresses himself other than perfectly. The imperfections in our life are brought about by our own thinking or our collective ways of thinking. Spirit never expresses itself other than perfectly. You want to fill your consciousness with the good that you desire. Let yourself get emotionally involved with it. So as we said, go over your desires just as the man did in the previous lesson, how we went over his house. See what you want and get a clear mental picture of it as you wish it to look when it materializes. Now let's get back to Waddell's words for a moment. As the sailor has the port toward which he is sailing in his mind, you must have a clear mental picture continually in your mind. You must keep your face toward it all the time. You must no more lose sight of it than the steersman lose sight of the compass. You see, there's going to be things happening in your life that aren't in harmony with this beautiful image. There's going to be people come into your life and they're going to give you negative suggestions. You're going to be reading newspapers, watching news broadcasts on television, or maybe hearing them on the radio. And you're going to hear stuff that is in direct opposition to your image. Reject those things. Remember, we talked about in the conscious mind, we have the ability to accept or reject. Reject it. Reject everything that isn't in harmony. I don't care how real it seems. It doesn't matter. It is not in harmony with your purpose. It's not in harmony with your picture, so you reject it. Now let's go back to Waddles. He said it's not necessary to take exercises in concentration, nor to set apart special times for prayer and affirmation, nor to go into silence, nor to do occult stunts of any kind. These things are well enough, but all you need to know is what you want, and to want it enough so that it will stay with your thoughts. Think for a moment. You may feel that I'm contradicting myself, but I'm really not. I'm talking about what you want. I previously talked about developing the ability to concentrate, and you should develop the ability to concentrate. Concentration increases amplitude of vibration. It gives more energy, focused energy towards what you want. But think of this. We're talking about what you really want. Do you remember when you fell in love? God, wasn't it beautiful? You remember the feeling in your stomach? You couldn't get the butterflies to fly in formation. I mean, everything was just so phenomenal. Do you remember? You do remember, don't you? I'm talking about you really fell in love. Did you have to get a note out to tell you to remind yourself to think of this person? No, you couldn't get the person out of your mind. You'd be driving down the street and their head would be like a hologram sitting out on top of the hood of the car. You're in love. Fall in love with the idea. Get an idea that fills your being, and then the idea will stay there. Now, you may be thinking, well, I can't really have that. You can have anything. That's what this program is all about. You can have anything you want. That's the beautiful part about being the human, creative being that we are. Now, Waddle says spend as much of your leisure time as you can in contemplating your picture. Isn't that what you did when you fell in love? You just wanted to see her or him, whichever it was. You wanted to be with them. You wanted to reach out and touch them. You could hear them talking every time a particular song played. They filled your consciousness. Well, that's what you want to do with this idea. Remember that you do not need to take exercise to concentrate your mind on a thing which you really want. You've got to remember that. And if you have to exercise your mind to remember this, perhaps you're not going after what you really want. You're probably going after something you think you can get. It's got to be what you want. Let your wants fill your mind. It's the things you do not really care about that require effort to fix your concentration upon them. Unless your desire to get rich is strong enough to hold your thoughts to the purpose, as the magnetic pole holds the needle of the compass, it will hardly be worthwhile for you to try and carry out the instructions given in this particular program. If you're having difficulty visualizing yourself really rich, you're probably trying to think of yourself with all kinds of money. Start thinking of what you're going to do with the money. It's much easier to get emotionally involved with the good that you can do with money. You'll often hear people say, well, I don't really want to get rich. I just want to help people. Well, Waddles puts it very well. You want to help people, you better get rich first, because the help you can provide cannot go beyond your physical presence unless you have lots of money. So let's visualize what we're going to do with the money. Let's see ourselves really rich. Now, the methods that we're presenting here are for people whose desire for riches is strong enough to overcome mental laziness and the love of ease. The more clear and definite you make your picture, and the more you dwell upon it, the stronger your desire will be. And the stronger your desire, the easier it will be to hold your mind fixed upon the picture of what you want. However, something more is necessary than merely seeing the picture clearly. If that is all you do, you are only a dreamer, and you will have little or no power for accomplishment. Behind your clear vision must be the purpose to realize it, to bring it out in tangible expression. This idea of purpose is vital to your success. Behind this purpose must be an invincible and an unwavering faith that the thing is already yours. that it is at hand, and you have only to take possession of it. Your purpose is your reason for getting out of bed in the morning. You'll often hear people say, well, I get up because everybody gets up. That'd be a very good reason to stay in bed. Whatever you're doing, what everyone's doing, you're probably going in the wrong direction. Your purpose is your reason for living. And then you build a vision, and that's how you're going to execute your purpose. The vision, it's a multiplicity of goals, of long range. It's a long vision of what you're going to accomplish in your life, and it keeps you on purpose. And then you select the goal. You select the one thing that you want, and that's what we're talking about here. Now, if we come back to Waddles again, he said, live in the new house mentally until it takes form around you physically. In the mental realm, enter at once into full enjoyment of the things you want. And you'll remember the scripture. It comes from Mark 11:24 if you want to look it up. Whatsoever things ye ask for, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and you shall have them. Prayer is actually the movement that takes place between spirit and form with and through you. Spirit being the highest vibration, form being the lowest. Spirit always manifests through its polar opposite. Spirit flows to and through us. We are an instrument to carry out God's will. And as this spirit power flows into our consciousness, we build the image. And then by holding that image, it's expressed with and through us. That's the way prayer is the movement that takes place between spirit and form with and through us. It's as Waddles points out, see the things you want as if they were already around you all the time. See yourself as owning and using them. Make use of them in your imagination. Do you know, I love that. Make use of them in your imagination. I have a sister-in-law, Pixie, has a little niece, Alexis. And Alexis' birthday was coming up, and Pixie asked her what she wanted for her birthday. So she told her she wanted this particular game. And she said, well, you hold it in your mind, and you'll probably get it. So as the birthday got nearer, she said, do you still want the game? And she said, no. She said, I've played with it enough already. I want to get something different. She was playing with it in her imagination. The little girl, she understands this. Sci Seminars is a phenomenal course. It's on the west coast of the United States. It's in Hawaii. It's in Korea and different places. In fact, you could look it up. It's just psiseminars.com. Well, at any rate, they run a program for children, and they do it a couple of times a year. They're phenomenal courses for personal growth. In these programs for children, they teach the children some phenomenal ideas. Well, Tina and Mark Chiron sent their two children, Lauren and Zach, to this child's program. This was a few years ago. And after the program, I said to Zach, Zach, what did you learn on the weekend? Zach looked at me, said, I learned that givers gain. I said, you know something, Zach? That's one of the greatest ideas you'll ever learn. And then I said to Lauren, what did you learn, Lauren? She said, I learned to go to the movies in my mind. And I said, and how do you use that, Lauren? Well, she said, last night I woke up and I was hungry. So I made myself a hot dog, I ate it, and then I went back to sleep. Imagine. See, they're learning how to use these marvelous faculties. As Waddles said, make use of them in imagination. When we do this, it's like simulation. It's imagined reality. Make it real in your mind. Make use of them in imagination, just as you will use them when they are your tangible possessions. Dwell upon your mental picture until it is clear and distinct. Then, take the mental attitude of ownership toward everything in that picture. Take possession of it in your mind, in the full faith that it is actually yours. Now remember, I pointed out of a previous session on gratitude, that gratitude is faith in action. So when we say take possession of it in your mind, in the full faith that it is actually yours, you be grateful for it coming into your life. You don't only be grateful for what you've got, you be grateful for what's coming. Waddles says take possession of it in your mind, in the full faith. What is full faith? Full faith is faith with gratitude, with the full faith that it is actually yours. Hold to this mental ownership. Do not waver for an instant in the faith that it is real. Now, this is a beautiful concept we're working on here. And remember what we clearly pointed out in the session on gratitude. Waddle said, be as thankful for it all the time as you expect to be when it has taken form. There is really no difference between the idea in the mind and the physical form in your life. So you ought to be just as grateful for it when you've got it in your mind as when you can hold it in your hand. Catherine Ponder put that very well. She said, if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. And Waddle said, when you can sincerely thank God for the things which you own, only in imagination, you have real faith. What did we say real faith was? Faith with gratitude. You will get rich. You will cause the creation of whatsoever you want. You do not need to pray repeatedly for the things you want. It's not necessary to tell God about it every day. Use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, said Jesus to his pupils. For your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things before ye ask him. Do you know, it's written in Scripture that before you speak, I'll hear you. Before another person speaks, you can hear them. Now think of what I'm saying. Before another person speaks, you can hear them. How does that happen? Because thought always precedes words. Thought waves are cosmic waves that penetrate all time and space. You frequently, with your intuitive factor, pick up another person's vibration. You sense that they're going to say something and it comes out of their mouth. Well, if you can pick up what another person's going to say before they can say it, wouldn't you think that your Father, which dwelleth in heaven, can? That's what Jesus said. For your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things before ye ask him. Waddles has pointed out very clearly, your part, my part, every individual's part is to intelligently formulate your desire for the things which make for a larger life, and to get these desires arranged into a coherent whole. You must then impress this whole desire upon the formless substance, which has the power and the will to bring you what you want. You will remember, when you want to transmit this desire, this whole desire to formless substance, how do you do it? I pointed out that you put yourself into a totally relaxed state and mentally see the image of the good that you want in your mind just sinking through that imaginary line into your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind's the universal subconscious mind. That's universal intelligence. That's the part of you that's omnipresent. That's the spiritual aspect of your personality. And spirit is omnipresent, so a part of you is omnipresent. And you let that sink in, and as it does, it fills every molecule of your being, and you are transmitting it to formless intelligence. You do not need to make this impression by repeating strings of words. You make it by holding the vision with unshakable purpose to attain it, and with steadfast faith that you will attain it. In fact, it goes beyond faith. You know it. You know with every fiber of your being. That's the difference between the real pros in life. I'm talking about the high rollers, the ones that are really the heavy hitters, the ones that are making things happen in a big way every day. They know that they are a spiritual expression. As James Allen says, they are an offspring of a deathless soul. They have this godlike ability within them, and they live by the law, and they're following the methods that are taught in this phenomenal program. You know what you're asking for is going to move into form. The answer to prayer is not according to your faith while you are talking, but according to your faith while you are working. It's like the Quakers say, pray and move your feet. You cannot impress the mind of God by having a special Sabbath day set apart to tell him what you want, and then forgetting him during the rest of the week. If you do not think of your prayer until the hour of prayer comes again, you cannot impress him by having special hours to go to into your closet and pray. You've got to see this. It's got to be real. You've got to know what's happening. Oral prayer has its effect in clarifying your vision and strengthening your faith, but it's not your oral petitions which get you what you want. In order to get rich, you do not need a sweet hour of prayer. You need to pray without ceasing. I had a minister one time tell me that praying is what most people do between prayers. Praying is having the non-physical move into form with and through you. It's permitting spirit to move into form with and through you. And by prayer, I mean holding steadily to your vision, Wallace Wattles said. And he goes on to point out, with the purpose of causing its creation into solid form, and the faith that you are doing so. Solid form. It's materializing. Believe that ye receive them. Way back around 1900, William James said, believe and your belief will create the fact. Napoleon Hill pointed out that there's a big difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. He said no one's ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. He pointed out open-mindedness is essential to belief. Closed minds do not inspire faith, courage, or belief. Now, no one's ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. My great mentor, who's gone now, God bless him, Leland Val Vanderwall, he taught me that our belief is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently when we reevaluate a situation, we'll change our belief about the situation. And as I look back, I reflect on my own life. I was losing. Man, was I losing. Up until I was 26, I was just going in the wrong direction every day. And all of a sudden, bang, my life just turned around. And then it just kept getting better and better and better. And it keeps getting better every day. Like I expect it to be better tomorrow than it is today. And today is a lot better than it was yesterday. How does that happen? Well, I keep analyzing myself. I keep studying this material. I keep relating myself to it. And that's what Wattles points out we have to do for gratitude. We have to relate ourselves to this formless substance, to infinite intelligence, to the Spirit of God. We have to know that we're a part of it. And as we do this, our belief about what we're capable of doing changes. And we quit seeing ourselves doing little things, and we start to see ourselves doing big things. Wattles went on to point out that once you have clearly formed your vision, the whole matter turns on receiving. When you have formed it, it is well to make an oral statement by addressing the supreme power in reverent prayer. From that moment on, you must receive in your mind what you ask for. Val Vanderwall taught me something else. He said you learn to willingly give and gratefully receive. Think of that. You learn to willingly give and gratefully receive. Wattles saying, from the moment you turn it over, you must receive in your mind what you ask for. Live in the new house. Wear the fine clothes. Ride in the automobile. Go on the journey and confidently plan for greater journeys. Think and speak of all the things you have asked for in terms of actual present ownership. And how have we instructed you to ask? We say, I am so happy and grateful now that I have received the good that I'm desiring. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. You've got to see it. Live in the new house, as Wattles said. Wear the fine clothes. Ride in the automobile. Go on the journey and confidently plan for greater journeys. You can do this in your mind. That's what your imagination is for. It's imagined reality. Wattles said, think and speak of all the things you've asked for in the terms of actual present ownership. Imagine the exact environment and financial condition you desire and live all the time in that imaginary environment and financial condition. Mind, however, that you do not do this as a mere dreamer and castle builder. Hold to the faith that the imaginary is being realized and to the purpose required to realize it. You've got to stay on purpose. You've got to hold the image in your mind. You've got to live as if you physically got it. What did Thoreau say? He said, you will meet with success unexpected in common hours. I personally have found that generally we realize that it is manifest only in retrospect. It happens, and it happens in such a subtle manner that you just keep on going. Remember that it is faith and purpose in the use of the imagination which makes the difference between the scientist and the dreamer. And having learned this fact, it is here you must learn the proper use of the will. In the next session, we're going to go on into the will, but I think it's vitally important that you review this lesson. Review it often. Review it over and over again. Keep listening to this. Keep reviewing it in your mind. Let's take a look at the questions that have been prepared for this particular session. Here's the first one. What's the most important thing to do to make an impression on the thinking substance? That's a good one, and if you don't know it, you're stuck, but I know you do know it. So play with it. What is the most important thing to do to make an impression on the thinking substance? Here's the second one. What's the difference between the dreamer and the person who uses the imagination scientifically? I like that question. I'll bet you do too. Now here's the third one. Give your idea as to what constitutes a scientific use of the imagination. That'll provoke you to think for a minute. And finally, are you working with faith and purpose? I might add to that, are you working with whole faith and purpose? And what was whole faith? Isn't that great? Now, when you finish that, there's a couple of exercises that I want you to get involved in. The first one is for you to realize there are many very powerful lessons in this particular session. Focus on two and state what you intend to do with that information. Now, I want you to think about it and get a pen and a pad out. If you're in your car right now or out for a walk, remind yourself as soon as you get back where there's a pen and a pad to sit down and actually write out two of the most powerful lessons that you've come across. But first, let me share what Thomas Troward said about this. He said, "We cannot think into manifestation a different sort of life to that which we realize in ourselves. As Horace said, nemo dat quod non habent. We cannot give what we have not got. You've got to get it in your mind." Now here's the last exercise. I want you to make a very clear statement in the present tense of what you want. And when you have that done, I want to suggest that you write out a statement of gratitude for receiving it. This is such a phenomenal lesson, thinking in a certain way. Let me close with the premise of the whole program, that you do not get rich by doing certain things. You get rich by doing things in a certain way. There's a significant difference there. This is Bob Proctor, and thank you.
Wallace Wattles employs such a fabulous analogy in this chapter studied in this session when he equates transmitting your desires to the universe with sending a friend a message. I always laugh out loud at this idea of sending someone an email filled with a jumbled mix of letters or random words from the dictionary. Imagine the confusion on their end. How would they possibly respond? And that, of course, is exactly his point. The universe wants to give you what you want. But to do so, it needs to know exactly what that is. It's a terrific guideline for the kind of clarity and precision that you need to use when formulating and expressing your desires. Wattles also issues a pretty strong disclaimer in this chapter when he says the methods herein set forth are for people whose desires for riches is strong enough to overcome mental laziness and the love of ease and make them work. If that sounds off-putting to you right now, there's a simple reason why. You haven't identified an idea you're passionate about. When you land on the right idea, the right vision for your future, the path that is going to enable you to make the most of yourself, then all the hard work you'll have to do won't feel like work at all. That's not to say it won't be challenging or draining or even frightening at times, but you will want to do the work that you need to do. You'll be excited to do it. When you do find that right thing, you essentially fall in love with it. And it's like falling in love with a person. There's nothing fuzzy about an idea you're in love with. You see it in vivid, vibrant detail. It doesn't require any concentration or reminders to think about. It's in the front of your mind all the time, to the exclusion of almost everything else. And no amount of effort in service of it seems too hard, too exhausting, or not worth doing. Go ahead, identify a desire that you're truly passionate about. Then think about it in a certain way. That is, vividly, specifically, in great detail, all the time, and most importantly, in present terms. When you do that, you can know with confidence that it's already yours. This is Sandy Gallagher, reminding you to live the science of getting rich.